Good evening and welcome. I'll bring the meeting to order and ask that roll be called, please.
Booth.
Here.
Bozeman.
Here.
Fisher.
Here.
Holzhauser. Here. Humbles.
Here.
Reed. Here. Zalin.
Here.
I'd ask that everybody present stand and for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, we will move to the public participation portion of the meeting. Dr. Parker will begin with the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our December Board of Education meeting. As I write the superintendent update each month to start our meeting, I always reflect on what we've accomplished or special events I've attended in the last month to keep the public and the staff aware of all the wonderful things that are going on with all of our students and our staff. And honestly, this month I wasn't sure where to start with my message for tonight. So I thought for a long time about what I wanted to say and how I would summarize the past 24 years where I've attended over 325 board meetings, worked cohesively with 24 different board members and 13 different boards of education. So I decided to do some thank yous and talk about some things I've learned along the way from all of you. My first inclination was to talk about everything that my team, including our admins and our staff, have accomplished since 2014. Our first priority was and always will be students. I reflected on how hard we fought to make sure we requested the priorities of the professionals in the buildings and what they needed. And some of the things we are proudest of include the alternative students, or the alternative school for students at risk of not graduating, a total of 4 counselors at the elementary level, our one-to-one technology, new courses at the high school, including the return to co-op, summer school program, the Explore program for middle school students, Strong Start, pathways at the high school, and one that we're very proud of is changing the deficit of $1.2 million to a surplus of $2.1 million. And in 2014, although students are always our top priority, the admin team and I focused on our staff and healing the hard, bitter feelings from the budget deficit. And I remember sitting down immediately with the building union reps following me taking over as an interim just to see how I could help. In those first few weeks, there were a lot of meetings with tears and a lot of anger, and we talked through a lot of issues, and through time, we learned how to trust each other. And relationships were the theme everywhere we went and anytime we met. This message from me was and still is that everyone in this district is important, no matter what your role is. You were not important to me just when you were in front of me at a meeting. You were important to me in every decision I made. The staff knew and understood the reasoning behind my decisions, and we had everyone at the table helping us to make plans, formulate decisions, etc. One example, or I guess 2 examples of that, were the district leadership team and the strategic planning teams, where we allowed everyone to participate, and we meant it when we said we're an inclusive, supportive environment for students, staff, and parents. Another example of how we worked together was when the DEA and Karen Beverland, Paul Park, Cheryl Bluth, and I finished our last contract negotiations in 6 meetings without a school attorney at the table. What a cost savings for our district, all because both sides respected each other and worked together. And another constant message I heard about in 2014 was the lack of communication, and we began a social media campaign in our district, and now we're using Twitter and Facebook on a regular basis. And I still remember that first meeting I had with my admin team where we talked about using Twitter and Facebook in all the buildings. And those same admins who looked at me with fear and shock and were a little resistant are now leading the charge in their buildings with social media usage every day. I had a student say to me the other day, one of the coolest things is having my superintendent follow me on Twitter and then you all of a sudden will like one of my posts. That's cool. Doing those types of things are just who I am, and I wasn't going to be pretending to be somebody I'm not. From those experiences and more, I learned that you don't know the power of a strong relationship or the damage you can do with a negative one until you experience both. We've done everything we can at this point to build a strong climate and a culture in Dunlap School District. I thought about the long hours I've spent here working in the district. And a few years ago, my admin team and I decided to track our hours just to see how many hours we were actually working. And we averaged around 80+ hours each week, making this district a better one, putting our own friends and family second to our students in Dunlap. And without any hesitation, we would do that again for our staff and our students. So to my family who's here in the audience tonight, I'm sorry for all the times I had to say I was too busy working to be part of activities, and I'm thrilled to have our family back together again. Thank you to my family for never judging me and mean it when you say you would support me no matter what. I learned in the last 2 months that you find out who your true friends and supporters are. And what a difference. What a difference you can make in someone's life, whether it's a parent or a community member, students or staff. Those who reached out to me told me I made a difference simply by being myself, being kind, saying hello to someone, doing things that are always for kids, and showing up at an event because I wanted to, and by trusting and not judging people. Teachers, staff, parents, my admin team, my message to you is simple. It's up to you now to continue the strong relationships we worked tirelessly to foster. Rely on each other. You need each other now more than ever. And your students need you now more than ever. And you never know which students you're impacting the most. You are, without a doubt, the most important person in one of your students' lives right now sitting in your classroom. And you may not even know which student that is. They know that you care, they know you understand them, and you may be the only person to smile at them and ask them how they are doing today. I never, ever realized how many supporters I had until the last 2 months or so, as people began texting, calling, sending flowers, cards, messages, etc. And the classes that made me cards, you touched my heart. Some people I had never even met reached out to me. A lot of people did. And some I'd only interacted with, maybe at an activity, and said hello. But some of the most treasured to me are the ones who reached out because they were former high school students, and now they have kids of their own in Dunlap and other places. Numerous kids reached out. I call them kids, they're adults now, to offer their support, and many wanted to share their story and their memories of their time in Dunlap. And I wanted to share a couple with you. I got this message from Facebook from a former student in Dunlap. Dear Dr. Parker, I want to tell you what an impact you made on me in high school. You listened to me when I needed someone to listen to me. You saw how sad I was on the inside when I was smiling on the outside. You were my light through high school. And this former student then goes on to tell me how I was the reason she was alive. Simply because I was kind and I made it a point to care and that I was genuine. And she thanked me for saving her life. That's humbling for someone. Another student wrote the following just last night, and it made me smile. I know for a fact I was one of your more challenging students. But you were always fair with me, and even when I least deserved it. And for that, I am extremely grateful, and I credit you for your inability to give up on me. Teachers, staff, admin team, my message to you is this: don't ever, ever negate the impact you're having on a student. It may not be the student you feel the best connection with, but be there and show up for them. It's important. Parents reached out and told me how they appreciated the example I gave their children and to never doubt myself. Call after email after text showed me how loved and supported I am in this district. And there was a common theme. I never gave up on any of those students. They may not have been exactly like me. They may have had needs that other students did not. However, they deserved as many chances as it took to be successful. And for all of you who supported me, thank you. You have re-energized my belief in education and in people and the impact that can be made together. I will always be the biggest supporter of the staff, the students, and the parents here at Dunlap. And I'm leaving, but my heart will be here with absolutely no regrets. I would offer the same to each of you. As long as you can look yourselves in the mirror and be comfortable with who you are and what you stand for, you can all accomplish great things together. I've been overwhelmed by the support of my staff, and there aren't enough words to express my gratitude. The last month's been really tough in our office. And in particular, there have been two people who have saved me. And I mean that, they have saved me. To Karen Beverlin and Renata, I know two organizations that are going to be much, much better off due to you joining their workforce. You are both top-notch employees who deserve nothing less than respect and kindness. To Karen, you were always there when I needed something, and you're so patient of everything I asked of you. And I know how hard it is to be the assistant superintendent, because I've been there. But you always were smiling, and you always said, I will do it. And you always looked at me and you always said that I'm your leader, but I want you to know that you were also my leader. We balanced each other out. We were a strong team. We always said that we would come in and we would leave together. And I'm a better administrator due to your leadership, so thank you. And I'm guessing Renata's probably not very happy because when we rehearsed this today, these lines weren't in there. So I'm sure she's wondering how this got in there. What do I say to you? You're simply invaluable to me. You've worked for me on weekends, you've worked at night, you've given up time with your family, and you've given up hours and hours in between those times. You're dedicated and you kept me on task. And you knew nothing about this position when you began. And we laughed about that many times. And now there's nobody who knows this job better than you and who deserves to be treated well. You know what needs to be done before I do most days. You are a wealth of knowledge about this district, and so thank you. You are both the best friends and employees that I could ask for, and your support has been unwavering since day one, and it doesn't go unnoticed by me. To my entire admin team, it's up to you now to continue this journey that we all started together. Be there for your staff, your students, and your parents. You were very, very loyal to me, and I'll never forget your professionalism, your dedication, and your unwavering support, which made my job an easier one. You are the true definition of the word team, and you show how people should work together. Going forward, I want everybody here to remember it takes an entire system of people to make all these stories happen. It doesn't happen to the admins by ourselves, and it doesn't happen to the teachers by themselves. It takes everybody working together. And it's time to focus on you. The focus needs to come off of me. You are still here, and you will all be my heroes as you impact the students going forward. Thank you. I'm glad that's done, so, all right. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we'll move on to public participation.
Karen, can we just say, I'd like to say a few words
okay,
before you
sure.
move on. And we don't want to take a lot of time, but we just want to say thank you so much. And this has been a very hard time for all of us sitting here at the board table as well. Dr. Parker, there's no words. We appreciate you. We thank you for all that you've done in your many years of dedication to Dunlap School District. It will be a very difficult task to replace you. And you know our feelings, and so we won't go down that road for a long time here, but we do want you to know that we really appreciate everything you've done for this district. Thank you. And I just wanted to say it's the same thing to Karen Beverlin. You've done an awesome job with everything that you've done for this school district. Thank you so much. There's a very lucky organization out there that's going to be getting you as an employee. This is just a small token from the board that we just wanted to say thank you to each of you. Renata, it goes without saying. Thank you so much for all you've done.
And I just like to echo those sentiments, and I won't repeat myself. I think I shared my thoughts on Dr. Parker's legacy and leadership prior to the Thanksgiving break, so I won't repeat that. But I will repeat that our district's loss is going to be someone's phenomenal gain. That goes for Dr. Parker, certainly goes for Karen Beverlin and Renata, the hub. They're really lucky to have you, and we're going to miss all three of you very much, and you're leaving big shoes to fill, all three of you. And in appreciation, as it's coming into the holidays, we'd like, on behalf of the board, for you guys to enjoy a nice meal and maybe a few drinks with your family and friends over the holidays at Junction City. So this is for each of you. Thanks.
Okay, this time we'll move on to public participation. I know there are several individuals who wish to address the board. So before addressing the board, I would like to remind you of our process. Per board policy 2230, we ask that when addressing the board, please identify yourself and be brief. Comments shall be limited to 5 minutes. The speaker is asked to please conduct oneself with respect and civility towards others. Individuals less than 18 years of age are permitted to address the board if accompanied by his or her parent or guardian. The board typically does not engage in two-way conversations during the public portion of the meeting. Any follow-up response will be addressed by the administration later. To be respectful of others and to protect confidentiality, complaints against individual students, staff members, or board members, either named or unnamed, shall not be orally presented to the Board of Education. Such complaints should be put in writing, signed by the person or persons making the charges, and delivered to the Board of Education secretary. At this time, if the first person could come forward and please state your name and the topic you'll be addressing.
How can I go, speak after you? My name's Candy Amundson. I am a teacher of 35 years.
I don't think it's
Candy,
on.
you want to talk into this one?
Can you
The,
hear me?
the larger
Oh,
one?
the little
Yeah,
one.
There you go.
This one.
Oh. Thanks.
Thanks.
In case you don't know who I am. I'm Candy Amundson. I've been a teacher for 35 years. I've been a substitute teacher in this wonderful district for 5 years. I've had children go through here, and I am very fortunate to have a daughter that teaches in this wonderful school district. Before I start, because this obviously is the night for you, we didn't come here to listen to the board, but I would like to address the school board. First, I would like to address the school board. Thank you to the 3 board members who so passionately gave their yes votes. Thank you for your interest in what all the speakers were saying. Thank you for your educated questions and your true concerns about where this school district is going. I appreciate you holding other board members accountable for their actions, and please do not let that stop. Thank you for that. Now to the other board members. You have put us in an unfortunate situation. You have done that. I do hope you begin to listen to what the majority is saying and begin to show concerns as to the path this district is taking. It seems like we have 3 board members who are constantly asking questions, trying to make suggestions as to what is best for the school district. The 4 of you have no comments, no questions, and show no interest. That is poor leadership. I could go on. And I hope that out of the 4 of you, that you believe in what you believe in. Do not let other people try to persuade you to make your decisions. With that, when I ended with speaking of leadership, I come to you. Believe it or not, my husband is my speechwriter tonight. This was for me, which was written on here, typed really big. No. Dr. Parker, and I look at this and it says Dr. Parker Lisa. You know, I don't know you personally. I know you personally through friends, the people that have worked for you, through subbing, through my children, through McDonald's. Okay? So you've been here for and I want to say, backtrack a minute, just be able to call you Lisa, and as you were saying in your speech, that you make us all feel like we personally know you. So to call you Lisa seems very easy. That's how you are, okay? 24 years, wow. Look at this. This is for you. These people are here for you. Thank you for your commitment to the students, your staff, the teachers, the school district, and the community. I'm a little nervous, and I usually am not. Your dedication has been amazing. Throughout your career at Dunlap, you have done nothing but excel. Over the last few years, when the district was in desperate need of rescue, you were there to lead us out of not only financial troubles, but also uplifting the spirits of the school district and the community. And as I have said before, I was there that day when there was a change. I walked down the hallway, the school that I was subbing in, and you could just see the weight lifted off the shoulders. Right now, there is some weight put back on. But I also remember, as soon as you took over that position, hearing the teachers say, you sent them all emails, correct?
I did.
Yeah. And I heard that, okay? Saying that we're gonna move forward, we can do this, and you did it. You were everywhere showing support, empowering the teachers and all the Dunlap staff to continue their passions for what they do in a very positive work, environment. No matter what the hour of the day, you made yourself available to anyone needing assistance. You continue that even today. My mouth is getting dried up. Usually I don't have any trouble speaking, as you well know. Over the past 3 weeks since this decision was made by a very dysfunctional board, a new word that we hear, not a new word, but a word that we're hearing constantly in the newspaper, in the news, out in the public, we have seen parents, teachers, staff, stakeholders, and former students speak very eloquently on your behalf. About 1,000 residents signed a petition for your reinstatement within a 24-hour period. I doubt any of these board members received that many votes when they were running for their positions. Not one person has publicly approached this board with any negative comments about your performance as a superintendent. Over 900 parents, teachers, staff, and students took the time to fill out a survey concerning filling your position. I hope the board takes not only the time to read the 30 pages of comment, and I do hope you get those, that have been offered, but also set aside their personal agendas and start putting the Dunlap students first and the district first as they were voted to do. Lisa, I truly hope that as you go forward to the next adventure in your career in life, you hold your head up very high. That you remember the support of all the individuals that have had your back and believed in you. And as you know, as you had stated, when you are an educator, you touch many, many lives. In the future, your 24-year tenure at Dunlap will be spoken of in the highest regards, as opposed to the 15 minutes of fame that some of these board members will have. Again, thank you, Lisa.
I'm Angie Connor, and I've spoken many times about this. But before I get to this, I'm not even going to call you Dr. Parker. Lisa, she said, take the focus off of her. That's kind of hard. We will move forward, but the focus will be on Lisa because she deserves it. She has set the bar for this district. And she is a great example of what a leader should be. So every time I've spoken as a taxpayer, parent, and teacher. Tonight, although I still wear all three hats, I'm first speaking as a teacher. These past few weeks have been a time of uncertainty. It continues to be a time of uncertainty. One thing I know for certain is the dedication and commitment Lisa has had for the Dunlap School District for the last 24 years. Lisa exemplifies the excellent leadership traits we would like to see both in the interim and the permanent superintendent for the Dunlap School District. We would like to share these traits as each school gives a short summary. But before we move on, I'd like to share these thoughts with you as a taxpayer and a parent. Every day we teach our children to make good decisions. I raise my own children to make decisions that result in a good conscience and respect for others. We teach them about unforeseen consequences for the decisions that are made. So as you move forward to make decisions for the district, I ask you to keep in mind possible consequences for these decisions and make decisions with the district's best interests in the forefront. Decisions made without consideration of all stakeholders will only result in continued frustration and distrust. Thank you.
My name is Al Hooks. The topic I have is the culture at Dunlap High School. I think each of you as board members would agree that the purpose of a high school is to optimize the academic achievement of each student. When students are nurtured, supported, and feel valued, they perform well. I'm concerned that the high school culture at Dunlap does not encourage all African American students to do their best. 2 examples I will share. I went to a basketball game, and a political banner was the big talk at the game. A high school basketball game should not be the place for a political rally. The second example is the recent social media comment by a Dunlap student with racial invective towards an administrator. After these events, though there was comments in the paper, I have not heard of any action by this board to assure the community, parents, and students that Dunlap High School has a culture of inclusiveness. As I think of students going to that school, they should all feel encouraged and supported to be the best they can be. My specific reason for being here is to ask that each of you as board members tell the community, parents, and students what you have done to assure that culture exists and will continue to exist. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Becky Keithy and I teach 5th grade here at RES, and I'm speaking on behalf of Ridgeview tonight. Dear Board of Education, one of the many character traits that must be present in any leader, especially a leader who will be filling some big shoes fairly shortly, is loyalty. Loyalty is not something that can necessarily be measured, but can be seen in one's actions. These actions are not based on personal gain, but on the intrinsic desire for students to succeed, the district to prosper, and the stakeholders to feel validated. A loyal leader steps up in times of need, strife, and turmoil, but is also present in times of celebration, learning, and reflection. Loyalty is making connections with staff as real people. It is showing up for our kids and in our classrooms on a regular basis, and being visible in all areas. These situations exemplify what we had, and we are demanding that in the coming weeks and months. The superintendent and other admin roles should have your back, trust in your actions, and your ability to always make decisions based on the best interest of kids. When we as a staff think of loyalty, all of these examples come to mind. One of the best ways to rebuild loyalty and trust is by putting our own goals, aspirations, and agendas aside in order to put others first. Loyalty is ongoing. It does not end when you are questioned, dismissed, devalued, or beat down. It continues to shine in your demeanor, in your body language, and in your actions. You commit yourself to your duties and responsibilities, not because that's the required thing to do, but because that's the right thing to do. Loyalty equates to what's important to Dunlap, kids, and stakeholders. Real leaders rely on one another. They show their loyalty in the ability to support differing opinions, consider all options, and base decisions on what's best for the majority. A true majority is when stakeholders' views are listened to and acted upon. This means compromising one's own wishes to fulfill the needs of others. Loyalty is watching someone hold their head high, continue to love Dunlap, the staff, and the students, and be nothing but classy and professional in that process in the face of all this uncertainty. We expect this in Dunlap, and we expect you to find someone who will rise to this level and follow in the footsteps that are just about too loyal to fill. Thank you.
My name is Nina Andrews, and I'm here today talking on behalf of Wilderweight, and we wanted to address integrity. Dr. Parker is a woman of integrity. She always did what was in the best interest of the district as a whole when making decisions, and always acted with respect for staff and students. Students were at the forefront of every decision she made and every initiative she led. What speaks most of Dr. Parker's integrity are her actions since the November 21st board meeting. She has been present at board meetings, actively running the district with its best interests in mind, and has been present in classrooms and with student learning. At a time where many would otherwise slink to the shadows and finish out his or her time quietly, Dr. Parker has evermore maintained her active and visible role within the district, ensuring that staff and students know our expectations and know our standards are high. Many can look her actions as a paramount example as to how an individual with true professional integrity acts. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rachel Wooden. I'm speaking on behalf of Dunlap Grade School. The word that we have is engaged. And I chose this word because that is exactly what we get from Dr. Parker. Having a superintendent that's present and engaged in our schools and at extracurricular activities has been a breath of fresh air and a quality that we appreciate so much. Dr. Parker could often be found in buildings, in classrooms, at sporting events, and at events honoring and our students. Just this year at DGS, she's come to our staff meetings and participated, has visited our classrooms, and has even gone into our classrooms and read and participated with our students. If you follow the Dunlap Facebook or Twitter pages, you will frequently see Dr. Parker in pictures and tweets, attending our events and helping our community. We hope that our next superintendent has that level of engagement with our teachers, with our staff, with our students, and with our community. We are thankful for you, Dr. Parker, and your involvement and presence in our schools.
Hi, I'm Beth Bergschneider. I teach 5th grade at Hickory Grove.
I'm Melissa Adams. I teach 2nd grade at Hickory Grove, and we are both speaking on behalf of the Hickory Grove staff, and our word was respectful.
And we're going to give you actual words from staff members in our building. Lisa exudes respect through the time she took to make herself present in classrooms, getting to know teachers and students. She, Karen, and Renata frequently served lunches to the students at Hickory Grove. They were never too big or too important for any position.
She is genuinely interested and excited about what the teachers of the district do in their classrooms.
Dr. Parker embodies respect in her interactions with students and staff. All are treated fairly, equally, and she has always taken the time to personally thank staff for various efforts.
Dr. Parker embodies respect. When she walks into my classroom, she embraces the learning that is happening and becomes a teacher for all in the room. She respects the student's voice, the learning environment we have created, and the lesson being learned.
Lisa respects our opinions, and she bases her decisions on what's best for the students.
Ever since Lisa stepped into leadership in Dunlap, what has shined through the most is her genuine respect of teachers. At a time in education when teachers often feel overwhelmed, spread thin, and underappreciated, Dr. Parker has always respected teachers' time, opinions, and expertise. The respect she gives to teachers is 100% genuine and sincere, and that is what makes her stand out.
Respect can be demonstrated by valuing others and their ideas. It is imperative for an effective administrator to show respect to all stakeholders. Dr. Lisa Parker has demonstrated respect throughout her 20-plus years in the Dunlap School District. Her decision-making skills, communication to stakeholders, and her value in her staff are all examples of her respectful nature.
Dr. Parker embodies respect through her participation and interaction in our schools. She recognizes the contributions of all staff, whether they are involved in the direct instruction of students or supporting students by preparing their lunches, keeping them safe at recess, or cleaning the buildings. Some of my favorite memories of Dr. Parker's participation in our schools are the times she has come to read to our younger students, serve lunch in our cafeteria, and personally deliver treats to the teachers to show her appreciation for our efforts.
Dr. Parker respects new staff members by making an effort to get to know them.
Dr. Parker has worked hard to gain the respect of our community. She has definitely earned it. She has shown total commitment to our district, parents, teachers, and students. I appreciate the time she took out of her day to be a part of our classrooms and schools.
Dr. Parker celebrates all victories of students and staff, big and small.
Dr. Parker shows her respect for the Dunlap community through all of her interactions, whether in buildings or out in the community. She greets everyone with a welcoming smile. She takes the time to be present within our buildings. I personally appreciate that she is approachable and caring. I can email her a concern and she would take the time to reply quickly. She respects her staff. Respect is not given, it is earned, and she has hands down earned mine.
There are so many things that can be said about Dr. Parker and how she has respected the teachers in our school. It's hard to imagine a Dunlap without her in it. It's hard to imagine a back-to-school institute where she isn't there greeting us and celebrating our hard work from the previous year. When she spoke of her teachers, it was genuine and we felt it. We know she respected us and the work that we did. So now, more than ever, we are showing that same respect to you. We know sometimes in life you face hard decisions. We want you to know how much we value the self-respect you have, and we are proud of you.
Hi, I'm Amy Winkleman and I teach at Banner Elementary. Good character is the foundation of excellent leadership. This character helps guide leaders in decision making and relationship building. Leaders of great character are clearly guided by what is best for the group they lead. Strong character is a necessary trait in the superintendent. Dr. Parker has demonstrated impeccable character throughout her tenure in Dunlap. The trusting and respectful relationships Lisa has built are due to her strong character and perseverance. So when you're choosing a leader for our school district, look back on Dr. Parker's accomplishments. Do your best to find someone with the same impeccable character as she has demonstrated, because being of good character is the leadership quality that distinguishes great leadership. Thank you, Lisa.
Hi, my name is Caitlin Laub. Which one am I talking about? And I'm speaking on behalf of Dunlap Valley Middle School teachers. We would like to thank Dr. Parker for her personable nature. During my time at Valley, I've heard nothing but positive stories from both new and veteran staff members about the interactions they have had with Dr. Parker. From helping a teacher set up her computers in her classroom, to bringing cookies to mentor meetings, Dr. Parker has shown an unrelenting dedication to the staff. Every time Dr. Parker is in our building, she has a smile on her face. She knows each of us by name. She has made us all feel very valued. She has always shown a willingness to listen to and incorporate ideas from the staff for the betterment of this district. It is evident that she loves her profession and this district. On behalf of the Dunlap Valley staff, thank you for your service to us, our students, our district, and our community.
My name is Jackie Fennell, and I'm representing Dunlap Middle School. I'm here tonight to thank Dr. Lisa Parker for the passionate leadership she has displayed in the Dunlap School District over the last 24 years. Dr. Parker has demonstrated her passion with her strong work ethic and dedication to students, staff, and community. For 24 years, she has served the Dunlap District in many capacities, such as counselor, assistant principal, principal, curriculum director, assistant superintendent, and superintendent. Dr. Parker displayed her passion by enthusiastically supporting and attending a variety of student activities, from robotics to marching band to athletics. Dr. Parker displayed her passion to student achievement by being regularly present in our classrooms and buildings while taking part in the learning process. Dr. Parker displayed her passion for community by warmly greeting staff and students by name. Dr. Parker displayed her passion for student success by addressing challenges with an open mind while standing firm in her beliefs of what best benefited students. We will greatly miss Dr. Parker, her passion at Dunlap School District. Rest assured that the next district that is fortunate enough to get Dr. Parker will benefit from her passion. Thank you.
I'm Chris Friedman, and I speak this evening on behalf of Dunlap High School, a school I have been proud to call my home for over 20 years. We want to express our appreciation to Lisa for what she has done for the district as a whole, and the high school specifically, in her decades of service. One of her strongest traits as a leader was her ability to make others feel that she genuinely appreciated what they were doing for the district. Many of us found ourselves on the receiving end of notes from Dr. Parker. They may be simple notes about something she had heard or seen, or notes on major accomplishments, both personal or public. It might be the simple comment from her about how she appreciates the time and effort we all put into the job. Small actions can result in big reactions. However, as I often say to my students and athletes, actions speak louder than words. In many ways, Dr. Parker's actions have said more about how she appreciates us than her words ever could. She's constantly attending events that our students are a part of, be it music concerts, drama performances, school projects, most recently the Greek mythology living museum that Mrs. Harrison puts on, or sporting events, and not just the big state events, although we kept her quite busy this fall. Personally, I could count on seeing her at a few cross-country meets every year, and I knew she had the state meet on the calendar before I invited her to come, offering what she could to help us celebrate accomplishments such as test scores or just surviving a tough month, things like Jean's Day, leaving a little early, or the ever-popular cookie tray. That came up in a lot of comments. We like food. She lives where we live and our students live. You can see it in her Twitter posts, likes, and retweets. She is there with us, sees what we do, recognizes the hard work that goes into it, and knows that building that relationship between leader and teacher is vital, just as we strive to build those relationships with our students and athletes. She leads by example. Our success overcoming a disastrous previous superintendent, improving academic achievement however you measure it, and dominating on sports and academic fields across the state is directly attributable to her leadership style, and her appreciation of the teachers who make this district great. We ask that you keep those qualities in mind as you look for her replacement. If I've learned anything in my 20+ years of teaching and coaching, it is that education is not test scores. It's not curriculum guides or rubrics or meetings or budgets. It's about relationships. Lisa has cultivated those relationships with grace and humility, and we thank her for it.
Karen, can I speak?
Oh, I think there's somebody that was there.
I'm Karen Beverlin, and I am the assistant superintendent here in Dunlap, and I just have a few things that I want to say. Every success and challenge here in Dunlap has taught me something that I will take with me to my next position. I have been looking for a position since last summer, and although sad to leave our staff and students here at Dunlap, my new position is an opportunity that I could not pass up. I am very excited to be going to my new position with SEPCO and look forward to sharing my skills and knowledge with all of the Peoria County schools, including Dunlap. I have learned so much from the staff here in Dunlap, and I hope that I have been able to teach them even a fraction of what they have taught me. I know I am leaving Dunlap in a better place financially and operationally than when I started with this district back in 2013. This is something I am proud of, but need to be clear that this is not something I did alone. It is because of the entire Dunlap team, the administrators, the teachers, support staff, everyone. I only put the processes and procedures in place to help us get to this point. The staff members have had to accept and work within those processes and procedures, which I know very well are not always appreciated. I am so fortunate for the friends I have made while working here, and I will take those friendships with me as I leave. I have always said that a school district is a giant machine that only works well when all of the pieces are working together. And I am very proud of the team I am leaving behind and the relationship we have built over the last 5 years. To the Board of Education, Dr. Parker and I are leaving with you a staff that works together and makes this district the excellent educational institution it is. From the transportation department staff members who get our students to and from school safely, to our buildings and grounds staff who make sure that our buildings are safe and clean for our students and staff, to the food service department who feeds our students nutritious meals every day with love, to our parapros who provide extra support to help our students, to our nurses who take care of our students' health needs, to our teachers and educational support staff who take on the huge responsibility of educating our students every day, to our department directors who ensure our operations are running smoothly, and to our building clerical staff who we all know make our buildings and district function smoothly on a daily basis. You have the hardest working, most professional and dedicated staff I have ever had the pleasure to work with. I did not mention the administrative team or my support team above, not because they are not as amazing as the rest of the staff or because they are more important than anyone else, but because I have a few more things I want to say to you about them. My finance and HR support team, do not let them fool you. They make their jobs look easy. They are not. Their work ethic and loyalty are second to none, and your new leaders will need them and their knowledge. Please never ignore them. They keep this place running. They process payroll and they pay the bills. We have worked together over the past couple of weeks to be sure they can get payroll and bills out the door without a hitch, as long as an interim superintendent and treasurer are named so that money can be authorized to leave the district. Our building administrators, they are your front line and work tirelessly and with professionalism to make sure our staff and students are provided with the resource and support they need to be successful in the classroom. They always have the students at the forefront. Utilize their expertise, show them your appreciation, and never ever take them for granted. You need them and our staff needs them. Katie Cazalet, what can I even say about her? She is a role model for every person to follow and sets an example that everyone can look up to. She will lead our athletic department into the next wonderful steps that they're going to take. Alyssa Hart, Katie Jennings, man, can they bring a smile to anyone that they encounter and bring a positive attitude no matter how difficult the situation. Value their skills and let them use their knowledge to help lead our district into the future. Renata Tavares,
Her loyalty is a quality that cannot be matched by anyone, and her leaving this district is a huge loss. Her new employer is blessed to be getting her as a team member. I only wish I was taking her with me. Heather Bowman. Heather Bowman, you have a true treasure in Heather Bowman, and the entire educational community knows it. Embrace her knowledge and her expertise. Treat her with respect. Never take her for granted. Do not take advantage of her, and always allow her the freedom to do her job of leading this district's educational programs, and she will lead this district to the next level of excellence. Do not lose her. She is a gem that everyone is seeking, and if you lose her, you will search for years to find it again. With all that said, I challenge you as the Board of Education to figure out how to rebuild your relationship with each other as well as the community. Truly begin working together for the benefit of the entire district and to watch the dance from the balcony. You have a team that is unbeatable. I challenge you to listen to them, trust them, and let them do their job. I also challenge you to bring new leaders into this district that will work as hard and be as dedicated to this Dunlap team as this Dunlap team that I am leaving behind. That is what this staff, our students, and our community deserve, and I challenge you to do it with a 7-0 vote. And finally, Lisa Parker. I am honored to have been able to work with you over the past 5 years, and am humbled that you chose me to be your assistant superintendent. I'm even more blessed to have you as one of my dearest friends. I have learned so much from you as to how to be a true leader. Your never-ending support has always kept me going, no matter how big the challenge. Your next district is getting a leader with integrity and a true heart for what is doing best for to do what is best for students, no matter how difficult the decision. Dunlap is losing a great leader, but your legend will live on forever, and you will ever be a part of this district's heart and soul. It is the end of our road together here at Dunlap, but not our friendship. And as we move forward to the next steps in our careers, we know that we will always have each other and a new theme song to get us through anything the world throws at us. Together we survived, together we succeeded, and we are in this until the end. Thank you.
Kathy?
Hi, I am Kathy D'Souza. I'm a parent, and I want to apologize because I really didn't know that this was happening tonight. So it's a totally different topic.
If you could speak up just a little bit.
Okay, I am the director of the Dunlap Youth Lacrosse, and it started as boys only, and this year I'm starting the youth girls, and as part of that I assumed and sort of inherited the role of starting the girls' high school with Katie. She will be talking later, but I wanted to say thank you again and give you a little bit of information about the girls' high school status. There are 35 girls who have shown interest in Dunlap High School girls lacrosse. A good number of them have participated in some clinics that we have put together with the youth. All of them are very busy, so not everybody who has shown interest has actually had the time and opportunity, especially because we put these together usually on Sundays. several parents have already emailed and asked about registering and what the next steps are. So one of the things I wanted to do tonight was introduce you to the person who has been leading the girls who have participated in the clinics and who has been teaching them. And she's also been teaching parents who are interested in learning lacrosse for their children's sake and trying to teach them the game. So I would like to introduce Melissa Plourde as a possible head coach for the girls lacrosse team.
Hi. Totally not expecting to be here, so really not sure what you would all like to hear, but basically myself, my partner over there in the corner, Rich Fuller, we've been coaching together. I come from Bloomington Normal. I've helped grown the program over in Bloomington Normal. It's a club program. I heard that you were wanting to go into the school, so we are over here for the opportunity to help grow your Dunlap program. I'm from upstate New York, born and raised there, went to school along the East Coast, played lacrosse as a kid up on the Canadian border, went to school, played the game. Granted, it was 100 years ago, but it hasn't changed much. Other than that, like I said, met Kathy, and she was starting up some clinics here. Rich and I decided to come over and jump in, and it's been fun. So as your program or team comes together in the spring, we would love to partake and help out and see what we can do to get your girls Dunlap High School program going.
Just want to add that Melissa and Rich have done all this as a volunteer, and they haven't asked for anything, and they've just been giving just to get our girls going. So I want to thank them.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else who would like to speak?
Come on, Mom, don't look at me with that face. I'm Julia Tavares. I moved here about 10 years ago from Brazil. And I just wanted to say one last thank you to Dr. Parker for all you've done. I think I speak on behalf of a lot of students when I say that you have not only set a great example for all of us, but also a great legacy. I don't understand how someone can have the heart or mind to have done this. But I wanted to say thank you for everything. And to the board, I know you have a challenge now, and I challenge you to do it on a 7-0 vote also. It will be hard, but I do believe that you guys can do it. And one last thank you to Dr. Parker.
Karen, can I say something?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
I didn't get a chance here in between, so as I've listened, thank you everyone for speaking. Basically what I heard is loyalty, integrity, engagement, respectfulness, leadership, character. Those are all things that Dr. Parker has. She's been professional through this entire time. As I was driving by the high school late one night, I thought, and for Lisa, I'm sure it's going to be difficult, knowing that she's not going to be there, be at all the activities and be our leader. I have the utmost respect for Lisa, for Renata, for Karen, for the admin team, and you will definitely be missed. If anyone ever asks me, I tell them wherever she goes, they're getting the best of the best. And same goes for Renata, same goes for Karen. You will be missed. I'll definitely miss you. You know, my children have said how much they miss you. I don't think they've called you or texted you, but I definitely hear that. I hear about, they remember how she served lunch to them at the high school with a smile on her face. So just want you to know how much you'll be missed, and you have the highest respect, all three of you. Thank you for your time and your commitment to the district.
Anybody else want to give public briefing? Okay.
Hello, my name is Sylvia Davis, and I just want to thank you for your irreplaceable gift of your time and your care for our district. Thank you so much. I just wanted to express some of the concerns of the stakeholders that do not have children in our district, but they do pay taxes, so they're heavily invested in it. We would like to see if the board could possibly provide information on our district website, maybe on the margins or as a tagline, because there's concerns that they're not getting in the information that's out there in a timely manner. We did get an email this morning at around 11:30, but they did not get it. And we're asking if possibly the stakeholders can also get those as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there anybody else who would like to give public participation?
Could you leave your phone number with Renata so we could find out specifically what is missing? So just if you could write it down over there, we could take care of that.
Okay, anybody else? Public participation? Okay, this concludes our public participation portion of the meeting. We'll now move on to information discussion items. School activity reports are available for the board's review. Are there any questions? Okay. Information regarding the high school random drug testing report for the month of November is available in the packet for the board's review. Mrs. Cazalet is available to answer any questions. Are there any questions? Information regarding the student handbook changes for 2018-19 are available in the packet for the board's review. Are there any questions?
No questions, but I did want to say that the improvements, the revisions were great. I know that the handbooks were, there was a big overhaul last year, but I was especially impressed that, at least I know for the Dunlap High School, that it was done in a committee fashion. And that's great that the teachers took extra time to be a part of that team, and it looks great, as do all of them.
Okay. The Dunlap Balanced Scorecard is available in the packet for the board's review. Mrs. Bowman is available to answer any questions. Are there any questions? And I know you went over this in detail before, so any additional questions? Okay. Information regarding the 2018-19 fees are available in the packet for the board's review. Mrs. Beverland is available to answer any questions. Are there any questions about the fees?
Yeah, I have some questions. I know that we have the student activity participation fee going up in 2018-19 from 100 to 125. I know I received an email today from a concerned Dunlap community member about the fees going up and the effect that may have on the students. We didn't have a whole lot of time, so that hasn't been, I don't know if the whole board has received that, but I just think that's something we may want to think about going forward. We don't want to discourage our students from participating, and perhaps the board needs to take time to review that and see if that's something that we absolutely have to do. And if it is something that the board continues to do, if we're going to move the fees from 100 to 125, then we need to ensure that there is a clear communication for the students that can't afford that they are not, not included in participating because of fees. Because we do not want to send that message to our students that if you can't afford to pay, that you won't be able to participate. So I want that discussion to be at this table.
No, I absolutely agree with Dawn. This is working. Because when kids get into high school or middle school, elementary, we want them to be involved. It keeps them out of trouble. It keeps them focused. They manage their time better. So I do agree with Dawn that if there's anything that we can do in the future to maybe bring that back down to $100, that was still pricey. But we need to see what we can do with that.
I have a comment as well. I asked Karen today to know how much this would equate to, and it's about $41,000 when we add everyone who's in one of these, and it's by student. I guess my biggest concern at this point, this is a 25% increase. I would be much against this because $100 is a lot for some. To me that's a lot. It's a 25% increase. When we as a district have spent, and I don't want to get into this, but there's, when we're looking at $170,000+ already for this disruption in the district, I do not want to put that back on to the parents of the district. When we've done that, I think that's too much. I think also, I just think that's too much at this time, when we clearly, have spent way too much money on other items and have so much disruption in the district. Every student needs to participate in activities. That's best for the district, best for the students, and of course I'm here, and everyone else as well, to do what's best for the district and the students. I would be completely against raising any fees in any future time.
Okay, any other questions or comments on the fees?
Well, just so Karen, quickly, when you went through that, what was the rationale behind raising that to 125?
When I met with the middle school assistant principals and Katie, I will tell you, none of us want to raise it, but I know that there is a cry from the coaches and from people that they need money to help support their programs, whether it be uniforms, supplies, materials, and it is just not in the general budget. So that is why it is there, and that's why the increase is there. But if I can agree that now is probably not the time to increase fees, but it's something to take into consideration as requests are made for athletic and extracurricular activities, that the money that is there to support them won't be as great.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the fees? Okay, information regarding the SEPCO hiring survey is available in the packet for the board's review. Mrs. Hart is available to answer any questions. Are there any questions? Okay, information regarding revisions to board policies is available for the board's review. The policy revisions are for information and discussion only at this time. The board will be asked to take action on these revisions at the January board meeting. Are there any questions or discussion on the policies? Okay. Administration is recommending that the board wait until January to make a decision on the middle school classrooms proposal and can answer any questions that the board may have. Are there any questions?
So I would request that for that proposal to just update it with the ed fund, if there's any teacher expenses to go along with that. So the whole facility expansion plus any impact it has on our educational fund budget.
And that's something that, that's not something Karen and I are going to be working on.
Well,
So
I'm
just
saying
make sure that.
Could be Heather.
Yeah.
Well, we met on it.
And Lisa, would you mind just expanding your thoughts on that, on the postponement? Because I think you have some thoughtful insight on that.
Yeah, I am the one that talked with Mrs. Dishrin about pulling that. I just felt that, if we were to approve that tonight, we don't have the staff to work on that come tomorrow with an architect. I'd also recommend that we do something similar to what we did with Hickory Grove, and get a Wold Architect is actually the one that designed Dunlap Valley, but the way we did Hickory Grove is we had Wold Architect at that time, but they also contracted with a local architect as well. But I think that would be our recommendation, is that you look at something similar to that as part of the package.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments on that? Okay, at the November board meeting, the board rejected all the proposals submitted in response to the investment RFP. The board will discuss the new process to be used for selecting a district investment officer. We have comments and questions?
Yeah, so I'd like to make a few comments. So going back to Karen, Lisa, Renata, and the team, I think there's no doubt the district is in a better shape today than it was 4 or 5 years ago. And having said that, I think looking at the investment, we need to kind of change with the times. Looking at our numbers, so our ed fund in 2015, this is our savings that we put away. It was 16 million then. 2016 it was 18, almost 19 million, and now today we have about 20 million that we have in a investment account, which earns us roughly, what, Karen, about 240,000 per year of interest, I think, right? In addition to that, our other funds, our other 7 funds, when we look at the way those have grown over the years, again, to the great management that's on their finances, We had 5.6 million in all the other 7 funds. And that in 2006, that was 2015. 2016, we had the 8 million that we have in savings. And this year, or in 2017, it was 9.2 million. And the premise behind, I think, us, with the amount of money we have, if we would go ahead and look at investing the monies in those funds, it goes back to some of these fees and such, but if we invest 80% of the money that they haven't been in any funds, in the last 3 years, that would have been about $368,000 additional money to the district. In addition to that, from the cash management, I think you started this year with our cash. So if we implement 2 of those things, which is a huge burden on Karen from the investment side, and so the district has a lot of money, and I think professionally we need to get this managed, but if we could look at investing all of our funds that haven't been invested, plus our cash that we get in the ed fund every year, we're looking at, in the last 2 years, 3 years, it would have been $478,000 additional monies to the district. So that's why I think it's important for us to look at what we do going forward as the treasurer, investments and such.
I have a comment. Or did you want to say something, Karen, first? You can.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say we need to, I think we need to have a discussion about do we separate out the RFPs, and have 2 separate RFPs, or do we have an interview process, or, what's the best way? But if you have a comment first.
Yeah, just to what Brian was saying, it does return money, but I wanted to ask if you know of any similar school districts of our size that invest reserve funds and cash on hand.
Our ed fund is invested right
No,
now.
I mean other districts to benchmark with.
Most districts invest their ed fund if they have money.
Wait, I'm talking about multiple. You're talking about going into other reserve funds like transportation or something, not just the ed fund, right?
Well, for instance, transportation, we had $3.9 million that we never invested last year, which if we put it in the same category of funds that the state requires us to put in for ed funds, so they're all protected investments.
Right, no, but I'm just wondering if you know if other school districts of our size invest other funds other than ed funds.
I think financially our district is in way better shape than most districts. That's kudos. Most of them don't have that kind of cash around.
Well, and I do want to say that I really appreciate you looking at ways to get more money into the district. My concern is this a best practice going into other reserve funds? The ed fund is a very large fund, and that was established 7 years ago, and so that has been a consistent practice in our district. And my guess is probably that's something that a lot of districts do. I have looked into some of this, and there's some caution in going into other funds because you have to be able to access that money. Transportation fund, if the state doesn't pay, which sometimes they don't, then if we have to get into the funds that we've invested, then we might experience a penalty. And I think we really have to take a look at what the return on investment would be on that additional $9.2 million before we proceed. And I think before we get into that process, I think we need to hire a financial expert that can advise us on that issue. Agreed. And what the risk could be of loss through penalty. So I think before we move into that next step, that next piece, I think we need to get that information.
So are you proposing hiring somebody before we get an investment manager?
Yes, absolutely. I think we need to get the expertise because, we lesson learned, we had David win for $6,000 during our long-term investments. If you have to bond him for, $5,000, then that's $11,000. We were only paying $11,000. And then when we RFP'd it out, or bidding it out, we were getting $50,000, $80,000 for the cost to get the return. And then when those organizations that bid split it out, then it was maybe $25,000, and I think the other one was maybe $45,000 to $50,000. So we're going from $11,000 to that, just in the lesson learned, the way, maybe the way it was bid, I don't know. But I think first a financial expert should take a look at what would be the best way. Would it be to post it, again, to have an that might do it for a stipend? Or whether it should be an RFP process, which would bring in organizations, not necessarily an individual, which might cost more, but you would have the stability if it was one manager and that manager leaves, if it's, I don't know, a Merrill Lynch or whoever, then if that manager, well, you could have a smooth transition, but I think it might cost you a lot more money. So I really think we need to get some expertise on this, just like we get legal expertise. That's just my suggestion.
Okay.
Suggestion.
And so interviewing various investment experts on this who currently are in the investment business
I think
to
we should-
advise.
Well, everyone else, please speak your mind, but I think before Karen Beverland leaves, she's our district expert, so I would seek her guidance. I would just say this is a what, maybe she can guide us on the how.
Yeah, I'd just like to make a few comments. We've had lots of comments on investments and the RFP, and I clearly see some value in always looking for other ways to do things, but I think we've gotten way ahead of ourselves, and I think we, as board members, have taken it upon ourselves to go way too far into this development. It's fine for you to have a suggestion. It's fine for you to make suggestions and give that to Karen and allow her to then make those decisions. But for board members to themselves be overreaching, I think that is a mistake. And I think that we saw that, and I don't think we need to see that again, right? First of all. We really shouldn't be having this discussion tonight. We don't have leaders to lead our district come January 1st. And so why we're spending time on investments on the agenda, I mean, this is not a conversation for this meeting. We need to focus on the disruption that has been caused by this board and replacing the valuable people that we have. And I don't think this is something that was advised to be on the agenda tonight. So I don't know, I just have a problem with that. Since it is on the agenda, though, I will make a couple comments because I have heard some things in the community and people have made comments about there being lumps of money and there was money there and it wasn't being properly invested and there was money and things being tossed around recklessly. And I think we need to have some clarification on those comments that were being made, I assume by some board members out there. Karen, if you can please speak to that. The funds that perhaps are being referred to were in a bank account and were collecting interest, which is what most, if not nearly all school districts do. So there's no lump of money that's just sitting there that's not collecting interest. And Karen, if you want to just give us a little bit of detail on where everything is right now, please, since it's on the agenda.
Just to give you where everything is at right now, the education fund is in the reserves. The true reserves are in Charles Schwab, which is what is posted on your monthly treasurer report. The cash on hand money that Brian was talking about, the money that we are going to utilize to run the district this year, is for all funds that there is that we have taxes to be able to invest, are in capital markets and in short-term investments. As those come off of short-term investments, they are deposited directly back to the accounts they came out of, along with the interest. The additional funds that Brian is talking about, the transportation fund is probably the only one right now that has enough money in it to really invest for long term. The other ones, the amounts in there are small enough that we may actually need to access that money to pay for some bills. The transportation fund has grown over the last couple of years, and some of that is because of the state making some back payments. But and it has been left in the savings account rather than in funds due to the fear of the state not making those payments and needing it to pay the bills. Depending on what happens this year with the state and making the transportation payments and the general state aid payments, it may be something to look at going into the FY19 year to put that money into longer term investments. As far as the money, I think some of the issues that were out were that there was money, pots of money that weren't necessarily where they were supposed to be, and I want to make it very clear that all of the money has either been in investments or in a savings account, earning interest other than the money that is sitting in the checking account to pay the monthly bills. There, it is on every monthly treasurer's report as to where the money is sitting, whether it be in Commerce Bank, SEFCU, Morton Bank, Charles Schwab. It is all right there, and every dime is accounted for every single month.
I have just a question. So those funds, the other funds, maybe the transportation fund, and I don't know what the other fund, but can those funds be invested in short term, like the cash on hand is currently, in case we would need to access it and be able to get more interest than in a savings account?
Any money that can, right now they are invested in short terms as cash on hand.
Okay.
Yes.
And what are you annualizing the return to be on that?
I would have to go back and look. I don't know off of the top of my head. It's about an APR, an annual percentage yield of about 1%, between 0.9 and 1.1%, depending on the times when the money is.
About 40 or 60 grand.
40 or 60 grand on those cash on hand investments.
Okay, and then do you have any advice for, in terms of, do you think we should hire an investment manager to advise us on whether or not to go out for RFPs, or whether or not to interview people to be our investment manager? And also, part two, do you have a recommendation for who should be named treasurer in the interim?
Is that something that maybe you could have some time to think about and maybe send an email? And I'm not trying to be, but you know, that's really on the spot. And I bet you if she had a little bit of time.
Thought about it, but if you
I actually haven't thought about it because the treasurer position is completely up to the board.
Okay.
That is something that needs to be determined by the board as far as the treasurer's position goes. As far as investments go, I think I would say that the cash on hand investments need to stay within the district by whoever.
So how difficult has that been for you to manage through that process?
The cash on hand investments, it was time consuming in the beginning, and just knowing where the money flow goes in and out. It's simple. It would not be simple for someone to manage the cash on hand, for the person that is responsible for the district's money from the inside to work with one person for the cash on hand investments and one person for the long-term investments, because they cannot cross over. The investments that we're allowed to make have to be risk-free. And CDs that are bought for Schwab cannot also be purchased in the cash on hand investments, and the communication between those two has to occur. So I would leave the cash on hand within the district with whoever takes my position, and then whether you do an RFP or you do interviews for the investment officer for the long-term investments, I think that's a matter of whether you want an employee to do it or you want to basically contract with a company. And I think that's really for a board discussion to have what the philosophy is of how you want to move forward in that direction, because there's pluses and minuses to both.
And so I'll kind of go back to Cheryl's comment. I was under the understanding that the Schwab account, where we have about 18 million for our ed fund, I was under the understanding that's fairly liquid and there's no penalties when we need to use that money. Is that not correct?
It's fairly liquid. It's laddered out so that so the money can come out. It's been laddered so that if we need it, we can access it at different points in time. It's not really a risk there of losing money, rather than just, there's very few in there that you would lose money for having to pull out early. It would be just a loss of what your expected returns are.
Gotcha, yeah. So it's fairly liquid, no penalties.
Right.
But just, Karen, just to ask you again, the way things were, right? The way you were working diligently with David Wynn, who did an excellent job on the long-term investments, and you could handle the cash investments, your recommendation would be to keep that with the position that as it is. Yes. Did you see any issue with having that one person conduct those investments the way it was?
No, there was no issue. Every report that he provided was given to the board on a monthly basis, and he worked with me, so it wasn't an issue. The only issue is, as far as between an individual person and a company, is for succession. If somebody would leave, somebody else the company would be responsible for making sure that they had somebody to fill in that person's shoes. I will tell you that the RFP went out for 3 years. If you contract with a company, do not switch them every 3 years. It will not be cost effective. One thing to know right now with the Schwab money, you're not going to want to pull that money out of those Schwab accounts until they are up to be pulled. So you're going to be working between Schwab and new account or firm that you're working with until all of that money is ready to be moved into the next system. I don't know what to call it.
Unless we go back to the old practice and if you have an individual investment, they can work through Schwab, and then you can have everything going through one firm, correct?
Exactly.
And that was, like you said, done at $6,000 a year
Yes.
for stipend, and $5,000 possibly for the bond, treasurer's bond, as opposed to RFPs could be up to $60,000 a year?
Right.
Okay. So that was not your initial recommendation, right?
No, I mean, it was not my recommendation. I think going through the process may have been somewhat beneficial, but I think as far as it's definitely, I think no matter what you do, even if you go back to the exact same setup you had before, it's going to cost the district more money.
And has anyone had a conversation with David Wynn whether he would be interested in taking the position again? I know that I'm not sure how the relationship is, between the board and him, because I think there were some specific pointed questions that proved to have no merit in practices that he had, and he meticulously provided us information explaining step by step how fees are generated to the fund that he invests in as the fund manager and not to him. So his $6,000 was all he was getting from the district, correct?
Yes.
Does anybody disagree with that?
No, but I just want to make sure the record's clear. I think Mr. Wynn resigned because his firm was putting an RFP in.
Yes, that's what I want to, yes. So Mr. Wynn resigned in October because of the RFP process, because for him, his firm was putting in a bid, and it was a conflict of interest for him as an individual to be taking the job of something of what his corporation could do. At that time, I talked to him because we'd even talked at that time whether or not we would go down the road of the RFP and accepting the RFPs as we were moving through the process. And I asked him at that time if he would consider coming back if the RFP was thrown out, and he said yes, but he would have to talk with his ethics committee through the corporation that he works with to make sure that he was able to do that and make sure that they didn't see it as a conflict of interest for him.
Because he's actually employed by the Commerce Bank Foundation.
Yes, he's by the trust company. Yeah.
But he was then also employed by us at the same time.
Well, yeah,
Yes.
correct, but he
And I
wasn't-
think if we do go that route, I think it would be beneficial to have a, job description or contract or something, because we didn't
And-
really have anything.
Well, I want to make clear that when David Wynn was here, he was the treasurer for the district, and his job description is spelled out by school code. So he did have a job description, a very clear job description.
But
But I think we determined that he was not performing the duties of the treasurer as in the job description, which is why we recommended that we have you bonded, because you were performing many of the treasurer duties.
Yes.
So that was a little bit of a conflict and possibly a problem without having you bonded. So when we met with the auditor, that was, something that he also recommended.
Yes, because David wasn't doing it, but as far as what he was doing with the investments, he was under the guise of the policy by the board and the expectations of what he was asked to do as far as the investments go.
Right. Okay, so moving forward for our January meeting, do we want to continue the discussion then? And
we may,
with the new,
maybe a couple months. I know that, we could lose a couple $1,000s over a couple months, but what's invested is already invested. And that'll keep rolling. But this additional, thought about maybe adding in the transportation fund would be an opportunity cost, but I think it's worth it to get to the priorities at hand and get our interims in and
Okay.
keep the boat afloat.
and what about Does anybody object to discussing at our January meeting the naming of a treasurer? We may not know who that is, but.
I'm going to clarify. In order to pay bills and make payroll in January, you have to have somebody named by January 1 because they're the only ones authorized to release money out of this district. You cannot have that conversation at the January meeting.
That has to happen right away.
That has to happen immediately.
I think, I think we're aware of that. There's some. I'm sorry. I think we're aware that that's necessary. And when we talked earlier, apparently we were told that someone could act as the treasurer.
But that person will still have to be appointed by the board.
Absolutely, yes.
And a treasurer's bond will have to be in their name, and it will have to be done before payroll or bills can go out.
Okay, so why don't we
January.
add that to our agenda for the special meeting, either on the 16th or the 20th? Is everybody okay with that? Naming of a treasurer. Do we want to discuss now who that would be?
I'm going to step away from that conversation.
Yeah, I think we'll do that probably in closed session, yeah.
Okay.
I just want to make one
Maybe
more
since
statement.
it's an individual, we'll discuss it in closed session, but we'll add that as an action item to our December 20th.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll take care of the things that have to be taken care of. But, you know, when we do move to have this discussion again, I think there were a lot of concerns going forward, and I don't want that to get lost, right? I think we need to make sure we're acting in a transparent, ethical way with integrity when we go into that process. And if there are any conflicts of interest, that should be disclosed to the board, and it should be disclosed at this table when we do go through that process. However we choose to do it, whether it's the RFP or the investment manager, and we need to be respectful in how we treat our experts, including the law firm. You know, the email that we got today with the questions about, you know, do you know what you're doing with the RFP, and we're trying to, you know, point blame and fingers different places, that needs to stop. And, you know, the question, the response that came back was very telling to me. You know, that we were asking for something that a firm that deals with hundreds of school districts has never seen before. And that is of concern to me. And even if you think it's a great idea, it is not this board's position to have a heavy hand in that office in determining what happens next. And when those attorneys come back, and when they advise us, you know, and we need to take their advice. Even if you feel you're an expert in the field, this is not that job. You can step away from the board and apply for that job, but as a board member, we cannot do that. So I just want to make sure that doesn't get lost, that we continue to work that way. And you know, and it's not just me. Other people had concerns. And if there's somebody at the table that was not concerned, and you don't read that email, you don't have concerns, then you really need to look in the mirror and ask yourself, what are you doing? How are you not seeing the same concerns and issues?
Yeah, and I'd also like to add one comment on that, not pointing fingers at all, but we've talked about listening to our experts, you know, and not getting down in the weeds. That's one thing, but I also think we need to listen to our experts, and if we disagree with them, we need to have an opportunity to have them at the table so that we can ask them questions. Why are you advising this? Why do you recommend this? And not just reject the legal team because you don't agree with their opinion. So I want to see that happen more.
So we did, just to clarify, at the September 20th meeting, we did discuss the RFP, and there were no objections to it going out in that form. We all had the opportunity to comment, and everybody agreed with that going out.
I don't think everybody agreed. Everybody agreed that Karen Beverly was going to bring an RFP forward. Everybody didn't agree with the behind-the-scenes action that takes place with phone calls and texts, intimidation and bullying, to have people change the features of the RFP. Everybody doesn't agree with that. And yeah, I mean, and quite frankly,
I'm not aware of
and you know what? I don't. As a leader, I have a problem with you then going back and saying, and I think another board member tried to do that at a previous meeting. as a leader, you don't go back, and if there's something wrong that you're being questioned on, you go back and say, well, wait a minute, you voted for it, you didn't have any questions then. Well, if I'm catching you now, it's a problem now. And nobody agreed, it was never approved, it was never voted on by the board, and the whole surrounding of this, a lot of this takes place at the district office, in meetings where people are not even announced or planned. You just walk in and you want to have conversations with Karen Beverland, with our administrators. That we're not seeing that when you're doing that. We're not seeing the text messages. We're not seeing the one-on-one emails when we ask that we email all when we have a question. Those things we're not seeing. So when you say, oh, nobody had questions then, well, maybe perhaps they didn't even know what you were doing then. But when it does come out and then we do have questions, those are valid and they need to be responded to. And I can tell you about emails that haven't even been responded to. So when you say people didn't have problems, there was some very pointed emails that went out and nobody responded to them.
Well, I think on the changes that were made to the RFP, they were recommended because the template used was from a school that was twice our size and twice our budget. So I think they were reasonable suggestions that were brought forward.
I disagree.
Okay.
And the email that we got today from Kate at our attorney's office very much says that the figures were appropriate and they appear that they were reasonable. And it was something that assume that a district that's investing the millions that we're investing, we very well could ask for $5 billion in assets, and we certainly should have minimally asked for $5 million in E&O insurance. And so she pretty much validates that the way it was written could have been considered appropriate. Now, if we chose to change that, that's one thing. But if you choose to change something that she advises against, that is a problem.
But didn't she advise too that we could change the $5 billion? And I mean, we changed that part, and
Yeah,
she had no problem with that.
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't say she had no problem. We are the board. Once again, like we said before, when you say there's a template, the board members shouldn't be giving the attorney what they want them to use. Because to Cheryl's point before, when the board members are giving you something, you're assuming that they've read it. You're assuming that they have a reason that they're giving it to you. And so if they work for the board, they're going to use that. If you didn't learn, if nobody knew before, let's learn that lesson now, right? So the board should not have a hand in pulling documents and presenting that to the attorney. They should say, we want an RFP to be developed and allow them to do their work, not present information, because the one that was presented had the $5 billion in it. And that came from a board member. So then to turn around and tell the attorney, oh, you don't know what you're doing, you had $5 billion in there, you presented it. The board members presented it that way. So let's not dance around this. It is what it is.
I think that Brian was just trying to be helpful. We've had other board members submit language before on other policies.
Not on an
Social
investment
media.
type thing like that. Not that I've been aware of in my years of being on the board.
So just to be clear, I sent it directly to Karen Beverland as an FYI. Didn't say to send it on to the attorney. I didn't know where it was going from there, but I did not send it to the attorney. I sent it to Karen, and I think I copied Lisa as well.
I just want to make a quick comment too, with the conversation, the discussion that's happening here. I think, and I do agree, Karen, we had this discussion, I believe it was in the September meeting where we discussed this. At that time, Karen Beverland went back and asked the question of our attorneys whether or not our insurance was enough, correct? I guess that's my biggest thing is that E&O insurance. I know about the assets and what that came through the RFP, but I think what the real discussion here is about that amount of insurance that we need for that $35+ million in assets that we have to make sure we're covered. And $5 million was a minimum. That seems like it's too low for me. And I'm definitely not an expert. That's why I'm going to defer to what our attorney says. But I think that's where Dawn's coming from. From that perspective, we did have that discussion to have Karen look at it, but we did not agree to that after that point, after our legal counsel came back and said you need a minimum of 5.
And also what she did in that instance, which I think was exactly the right thing to do, and just correct me if I'm wrong, but you included the $2 million because we had a board discussion, and so I think you felt like it should be changed to $2 million because we'd all agreed on that. And then you added, didn't you, an addendum so that the $5 million was in that RFP as well?
At the September board meeting, the RFP was submitted with $5 million, and Brian had asked, said that I thought we had talked about the $2 million. I said, you're right, I will go back, I will check on the $2 million. I talked to Kate the next day. She recommended that we keep it at $5 million. So I did not change it. I sent it back out with the other changes that Kate did agree with, and I sent it out, asked for the board to look at it again. I received an email back that the $2 million, with that we had talked about the $2 million, and I explained.
Was that consensus?
The $2 million?
You said you got an email back.
Let me finish.
Okay.
So I sent it back with the $5 million in it as the original RFP had. And I received an email back from Brian that said, I thought we had talked about last night moving it to $2 million. And I explained that yes, and that I talked to Kate and she recommended leaving it at $5 million. And then he emailed back and said, I think that's too high. So based on that, I thought, you know what, we need to get the RFP out. It has to go. So I talked to Kate again, and we moved it to the $2 million and moved the $5 million down to the bottom with the other higher amounts that had been requested earlier in the process of having $15, $20, $25 million in E&O insurance to make sure that we were protecting our investments. So
What do we currently have today for insurance?
Currently for insurance,
For the E&O piece of it.
right now what we have with David and myself, it's bonded through the district, and we have 25% of our total cash. So we're at about $19 million is what we're bonded against.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. So I think, I don't know if there's confusion here, but there was clearly a change in what was recommended, and that is the concern. You know, if our attorney's recommending $5 million, and Karen, I know you stood behind that strong. In fact, there was talks of $10 million. There was talks of even higher amounts of insurance because we want to protect ourselves as a district. So the concern came when then there were two people at this table who specifically asked for $2 million, right? They didn't ask you to lower it. They didn't ask you to look at what it would cost for a lower amount. They specifically asked you to change the requirement of the RFP to $2 million. And the significance of that, because we're saying that, oh, you have two, you have both in there, it's not a big deal, you're making a big deal about it, right? Well, it is a big deal. Because when you change the requirement, then that changes the rules of the game. And that's access to much smaller investment brokers, which I'm not saying that that's necessarily a problem, but then it only requires them to have $2 million worth of insurance. Anything in addition to that, which included the $5 million or $10 million that the board would have decided on, would have been paid for, as I understand it, off the backs of us, of the community, of the taxpayers, because now the requirement is lowered to $2 million. So then we're going to go back and say, oh, well, we just lowered it to $2 million, but we're going to actually require 5 or 10, right, to protect the district. I'm assuming we all want to protect the district. So when we go back and ask for that 5 or 10, we're paying for that. That's additional insurance because that wasn't in the requirement. So let's not make it appear that having the 2 and the 5 on the piece of paper is the same thing, because it's not. The requirement should have been 5. The attorney said it should have been 5. Karen Beverland recommended it be 5. The initial document the board saw was 5. So then, and we didn't discuss that at this board table. Karen Disharoon, you said 2. You're going to change it to 2. And Brian said, but you're going to look at that E&O and you're going to change it to 2. Now, and I guess I asked this question November 21st at that meeting. Why did you want to change it to $2 million?
Well, I just asked this question. We have $20 million with Charles Schwab today. Do you know what their insurance is? If they make a mistake on our trades, what are we covered for?
I don't know what Charles Schwab is because all of our holdings in Charles Schwab are under the district, and David Wynn would have been responsible for those trades.
No,
and
Schwab as a company should have some insurance for us if there's a mistake. That's what these other RFPs are for. So if Schwab made a mistake with our $20 million, can you tell me what their
the mistake that would have occurred would have been because of David Wynn making a mistake, not because of Schwab, because David Wynn directed Schwab.
Well, if Schwab didn't make a trade that David wanted to do, what I'm asking, they should have insurance.
I have no idea.
But he doesn't work for Charles Schwab. So what we're trying to...
But what I'm saying, we have $20 million with Schwab. All I'm asking is a simple question. We have $20 million invested with Schwab. If Schwab makes a mistake with our money, what is the insurance for?
But I think we're talking about apples and oranges here.
Right, where'd you come up with the 2 million?
trying to say-
I guess that's the question, right, Don?
It's on a transaction.
Yeah, that's completely different.
Right.
And I think you had explained it very well before. You know, corporations and companies, it's a whole different system, right? They don't even have to have E&O insurance because they
Brokers
have
have-
other protections.
Brokers have E&O insurance. Trust companies or banks do not have E&O insurance because they're protected by their own collateralization.
So if there aren't more questions for Karen, and I don't want to cut anybody off. When we were talking, we have so few days left with our fearless financial leader. Would it be possible, and just think on this tonight, you can email the board, perhaps, and I'm just brainstorming here, but maybe perhaps a conversation with David Wynn on the issue of just the return on investment versus the risk. He would be able to address that with the transportation fund, I would think, with some pretty deep expertise. If you don't agree, that's fine. I just was throwing that out there because it's a known entity by the board. Or if he has any recommendations of a financial expert, or if you would like to hand that off to somebody else in the interim, maybe we could get an answer on that piece. And by hearing that, he may also have some advice on an RFP versus posting. Knowing the community, he would know if he didn't want to do that for the district and employee role, he may have some great recommendations. But we would have to post. My concern with posting is that we would be in the environment, and this is just when we have this conversation in the future. But I know Karen was asking, what do we do? I think before you leave, with posting it and then interviewing. Who's going to do the interviewing?
It would be the board that would do the interviewing because the treasurer is officially your employee.
Right, and so there's some difficulty, I think, just at this juncture with that. It might be a little bit cost effective, but I think in the long run to build community trust, we may need to do an RFP, because an RFP, a request for proposal, is just, it's by the numbers. They put in the proposal and it's how much are you going to charge us to do what we're asking you to do. And then you pick the best, most economical. You can have other factors, but it's really not subjective. And that would be very transparent because that would be open to the public to see. So those are just two thoughts, but I think if we could get whatever guidance on whether, return on investment with this, asking financial expert who you would recommend, and maybe even reaching out to David Wynn. It's a lot to ask, I know.
No, I'm
On your
more than
11th
happy.
hour.
I can reach out to David Wynn. I can also reach out to the other person that helped me review the RFPs when they came in. I would recommend, what I will do is ask the questions and ask them to CC the entire board on those answers, because I think you are who need the answers that they provide. And I want all of you to see them at the same time.
That would be great.
Okay. I really appreciate that, Karen. Yeah. Right up to the end, and I think probably weeks after, you're going to be helping the district.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments on that? Okay, let's see. Information regarding future agenda items is available for the board's review. The board will review any requested agenda items. Were there any? Okay. At this time, this concludes the information discussion item segment of the meeting, and we'll move into the consent agenda. Are there any clarifications or discussion items regarding the consent agenda? Okay, if there are no clarifications or discussion items, I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented for the December 13, 2017 Board of Education meeting.
I'll second that.
It's been moved by Teresa Holzhauser, seconded by Abby Humbles. Is there discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Booth.
Aye.
Bozeman.
Aye.
Fisher.
Aye.
Hauser.
Aye.
Humbles.
Aye.
Reed. Aye. Zawin.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. We'll now move on to the action item segment of the meeting. The bill list and treasurer's report are included in the board packet for review. Mrs. Beverlin is available to answer questions. Are there any questions? Okay, I'll ask for a motion to approve payment of the bills.
I move to approve payment of the bills in the amount of $3,513,653. as presented.
Second.
It's been moved by Abby Humbles, seconded by Cheryl Bluth. Is there discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Bozeman. Aye. Disharum.
Aye.
Posthauser.
Aye.
Humbles.
Aye.
Reed. Aye. Zawin.
Aye.
Luce.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. The district investment report is available in the packet for review. Mrs. Beverlin is available to answer questions. Are there any questions? Okay. Information regarding the 2017 tax levy is included in the board packet for review by the board. Mrs. Beverlin is available to answer questions. Are there any questions?
I have no questions, but I'd like to commend the administration in adjusting the levy, and I appreciate the work that was done with that. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, I'll ask for a motion to approve the 2017 tax levy.
I move to approve the 2017 tax levy as presented in the tax levy resolution.
Second.
It's been moved by Brian Zawin, seconded by Teresa Holzhauser. Is there discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Disharum.
Aye.
Posthauser.
Aye.
Humbles.
Aye.
Reed. Aye. Zawin.
Aye.
Luce.
Aye.
Bozeman. Aye.
Okay, motion carries. That concludes the action item segment of the meeting, and the board will now move into closed session. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn to closed session.
I move to adjourn to closed session for the following purposes as stated in the Open Meetings Act: student disciplinary cases, the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body, and discussion of minutes of meetings lawfully closed.
Second.
It's been moved by Cheryl Bluth, seconded by Teresa Holzhauser. Is there discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Posthauser.
Aye.
Humbles.
Aye.
Reed. Aye. Zawin.
Aye.
Luce.
Aye.
Bozeman. Aye. Disharum.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. We are adjourned to closed session.
Karen, can we take a 5-minute break between?
Sure.